Oh, yeah, of course.
I just wanted to introduce, Eric Johnston, Environmental Health Division Director and Non-Community Water Supply Coordinator at Benzie, Leelanua District Health Department, and Dan Thorell, Registered Sanitarian Deputy Health Officer at Health Department of Northwest Michigan and Interim Environmental Health Director. They have a wonderful bio, and with time, I'm going to go ahead and stick to the description of what they'll be talking about today. So beach monitoring in Northwest Michigan has been a success story over the last 20 years. Monitoring recreational waters for E. coli is one of the most highly visible public health programs in Northwest Michigan. Local citizens and visitors alike flock to our beautiful programs in Northwest Michigan. Popular beaches during the summer, and they have come to rely on the local health department for monitoring these programs for information about water quality at their favorite beach hangout. Beach monitoring is an important program which connects health departments with local citizens and visitors to empower them with public health information regarding the surface waters we all enjoy. However, the relationship between health departments in the region and the public has not always been so smooth. There was a period in the early 2000s when funding for beach monitoring was spotty, and there was a season which prompted an article in the local newspaper with the headline, "E. coli ruined my summer." There were many lessons learned during this time, which resulted in strong beach monitoring programs in Northwest Michigan. Two distinctly different models were adopted across the region. One model is based on the collaboration between the health department and a local nonprofit watershed center and a private lab. The second model is based on a program being conducted and completely within the local health department, including the use of their own laboratory. Both models have their pros and cons. They also have a track record of success. This presentation will explore these two distinctly different approaches and answer questions you may have about the practical application.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody's set on caffeine, coffee, all that stuff. It's 4 o'clock, so. We'll get started here. This is one of my favorite beaches, Empire Beach. It's beautiful. I'm sure some of you have been there, and wanted to start with that. Those that are not here, Brent Wheat is the Environmental Health Director, which I was the Environmental Health Director in Grand Traverse County and left and went to Northwest a year ago, and he took over. So he's not able to be here for this presentation. And then Sarah Uren is the Program Director at the Watershed Center Grand Traverse Bay, who is a big part of the success story in this region for healthy beaches. So, wrong way. So, when we're talking about water resources and beaches in this region, it's connected to the local economy, quality of life. When we're talking about all of that in tourism, beaches are a huge deal here, okay? Because we have Sleeping Bear Dunes, we have hundreds of acres or hundreds of miles of shoreline, lots of inland lakes, and people flock here during the summer to enjoy those resources. So we want to make sure that they're safe and that they're monitored and people can continue to enjoy those. And it's really integral part of the local economy. So just a really quick, talking about history of the region, and this is really focusing on Traverse City, but you could apply that to many other areas, Petoskey or Frankfurt or any of those places. It really went from a commercial to a recreational use because, back in the day, this is what the shoreline looked like in Traverse City. This is actually the same spot as this, okay? And that transformation from the industry, crowding the lakeshore to recreation happened over many, many decades. This is downtown Traverse City is over here. This is the Boardman River where it comes out. Right here is where Grandview Parkway is right now. As you can see, this was greatly different than it is now. This was basically an open sewer until like the 1930s when they first built a sewage treatment plant. This is the open space where the Cherry Festival is held every year. This is where the old coal power plant was. But again, you can see what the shoreline looked like there. I brought this article up just because it talked about the past 100 years in water quality, and the city's drinking water was actually taken from West Bay at one time, and it's now taken from East Bay. But at the time it was taken from West Bay, it was in the corner of West Bay, just east of the river, and sewers dumped directly in the river without any treatment. And this article talks about people observing raw sewage floating down the river, and the city's water intake was just a little ways away. There were some cholera outbreaks. I mean, it was crazy. And it took many years for this to get resolved. It wasn't until in the 1960s they actually moved the drinking water intake from West Bay over to East Bay. So when we're talking about beaches and monitoring for beaches, we have to talk about pathogens and E. coli and how they're interconnected. So as we know, pathogens like bacteria, viruses, protozoa, they cause disease. E. coli is an indicator of that other pollution that's in the water, right? Lots of people have the misconception, as we all know in public health, that E. coli is what's causing the problem. It's not what's causing the problem. It's telling us that could be other things in the water that could be more serious, cause more serious disease, and that's really what we're worried about. So the sources that we're talking about, stormwater is a major pathway for E. coli to come into the water. Does that indicate sewage? No, but you also have animals that live in stormwater. Every impervious surface that gets rained on ends up in a stormwater drain. All that stuff gets washed out to the bay during rain events, and that can cause serious problems with E. coli spikes and potentially other more serious pathogens and bacteria that are in the water. So, and the storm drains themselves are just good media for cultivating bacteria growth. In between storm events, low flow, they have water standing in them, animals living in them, all kinds of stuff like that. Oh, this is a good picture right here. This was actually taken in Traverse City. So obviously, yeah, little family of raccoons. So another problem is direct illicit connections from like the sanitary sewer into surface water. And I can tell you from years of experience, we would get a huge rain in the summer in Traverse City, and I would just wait for the phone to ring, and it would be the director of public works saying, okay, yep, sewer's overflowing, it's going right into the river, and guess where it was? It was directly behind the Record Eagle building, so every summer, and we have a huge problem, and it's really nationwide, statewide and nationwide, because you think about the infrastructure. When was it built? It was built like 100 years ago, a lot of it, I mean, of course things have expanded and new infrastructure was put in, but the stuff that was originally there, it's crumbling, it's undersized. I mean, there's just all kinds of problems with it, and we haven't addressed it. And we see this whenever we get huge rain events, because, really, rain should not be infiltrating the sanitary sewer. It shouldn't be in there. So this slide I put up there just to kind of give you an idea. We did a survey pilot project back in 2012 looking at, we did purposely sampled storm drains emptying out near a public beach to get the number of the colony counts for E. coli in those storm drains. And this was back in 2012, but as you can see, this is just from storm drains. So you got huge numbers going into the surface waters, the beach, and affecting the beaches. And of course, I mean, any of us that have had a monitoring program, your person is going out taking samples, a certain morning, and it rained all night. It's like, okay, well, I guess I better clear my schedule because you know what the results are going to be like. So really, in this neck of the woods in Northwest Michigan, we have a couple of models, okay, for beach monitoring. And the one that I worked in for many years, okay, is the one here in Traverse City, Grand Traverse County, and Benzie, Leelanua County, in the Benzie, Leelanua District Health Department, is we work with a team of stakeholders. The nonprofit Watershed Center is really the fiduciary. They apply for, get the grants, work with the state, they dole out the money. We work with them, and basically the health department does all the advisories, talks to the media, closes the beach if necessary, and many other things. But there's a partnership, and we also utilize a private lab, SOS Analytical, here in Traverse City, who has been the partner since day one for about 20 years. And they actually they hire the intern that comes and does the sampling, travels throughout the region. And we're doing, basically sampling once a week. In Northwest, it's quite a bit different because it is totally run within the health department, okay? Environmental health is, we get the grant, we do all the reporting for the grant, we're the fiduciary, we have our own lab, we hire an intern, or we use internal staff, depending on what's going on funding-wise and, numbers-wise with permits over the years. So it's completely run in-house within the health department. There are distinct pros and cons, right? This, you have complete control. You know that your person, if your person is calling in sick or whatever, can't go out and sample, you can find somebody else really quick and just make sure things are done. You have control over what's going on with the grant. But I would say that's probably one of the, to me, there was more pros for the stakeholder collaborative effort, my own experience, only because of the partners involved. I mean, the Watershed Center just really takes a lot of pride and really owns the program, okay? And so they took that piece of having to manage these grants and reporting and quarterly reporting and all that stuff, and they do all that, which is great. And it's totally dependent on who's involved. So from that standpoint, there's many different ways to do this, but that's kind of how it's done here in this area. So these partnerships for the collaboration model really started in 2001. In the early 2000s, we had some serious problems. First of all, funding was really hit or miss. We didn't know if we were going to get funding one year or the other, and nobody was kicking in any extra money. We didn't have extra money. So, I mean, there was years that we just didn't do it. We just didn't do any beach monitoring. We had one summer, though, where we were monitoring, where we just happened to have we had a lot of issues with when we collected the samples. We had numbers that were over 300 colony forming units per 100 milliliters, which prompted us to close the beach. And at that time, that's what we did. We closed the beach. We posted it, we closed it, we informed the media, and this prompted an article in the paper that said, E. coli has ruined my summer, okay? So you would have thought the health department, with that statement, shut down Cherry Festival, closed every beach. I mean, people came out of the woodwork, and when I say people, I mean the city manager, the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, hospitality people, hotel managers. I mean, they were beating down our door. It was crazy. So we formed this beach monitoring stakeholders group in 2007 to address this because we had a huge problem. We didn't know, the way that we were reporting things, the media wasn't happy, nobody was happy. And the way that we were doing things, there's got to be a better way. So we had a huge meeting at the health department, and we ended up taking all the information back and doing a lot of research and really thinking about how we operated the program. So I just also wanted to kind of highlight some of the newspaper articles that were going on back then. I mean, stuff like this, beach contamination must be addressed. Swimmers should take E. coli warning seriously. A little E. coli in the bay may cost millions. I mean, there was this concerted, just groundswell of concern about E. coli back then. But the good news is, after we made these changes and after we started changing the process and getting people more, informing the media a little bit better and just doing things a little bit differently, it drastically changed. We got a lot of good press. Officials tackle the E. coli problem. Water concerns getting the right kind of attention, that type of thing, because we really owned the problem and brought the stakeholders together. And when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about city and county officials, the sheriff's department, DNR, state parks people, the National Park Service, the private lab, the Watershed Center. Health Department Northwest was actually involved with that as well. So, and we met regularly. And actually, even at this time, in 2009, the Grand Traverse County Health Department staff were awarded Environmentalist of the Year Award in public service for those efforts. So I'm going to hand this over to...
You can continue. You can control that if
you want me to control it? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm just going to kind of go over what we do with our collaboration with the Watershed Center and kind of give you a feel for our involvement so that you can kind of compare it to what Dan has had to do up at Health Department Northwest. So usually what happens is in around March or so, we have a meeting with Grand Traverse, the Watershed Center. With all the other partners, and there's about 8 to 10 of us sitting around there talking about what we're going to do for the year, how many beaches we're going to sample, and for how many weeks. So in my district, there's 8 beaches. They're all public beaches all along Lake Michigan and the Bay. And inland, we have a few inland lakes that participate. Up until last year, they were funded by a state grant, and that money has kind of dwindled, so they can actually opt in if they want to pay the $1,500 that it costs for them to do it for the season. And usually it's 13 weeks long, and it runs from June, second week of June?
Yeah, somewhere there, mid-June.
Till the week after Labor Day. So it's just kind of those peak times. So what we'll do is, we have SOS, and again, this is Watershed Center sets everything up. They will go out and they will take samples, and they will hit each beach, and they'll take a sample here, here, and here. So they'll take 3 samples, combine them all into one, and we use these numbers. So they will sample on Wednesday, we get results on Thursday morning, we put a press release together depending what the levels are. So 0 to 300, E. coli per 100 milliliters of water is considered full body contact. You can get on in there and do your thing. We get up to more than, so this is what you could do in addition to those 3. So right now we're doing a composite sample. You can also do a geometric mean of 5 samples over a 30-day period of the month.
Only if you're not doing the composite, though.
Correct, if you're not doing the composite. But that's not real effective for a beach sort of situation where people are going to be in it every day. So that's why, with history, we're able to do the composite through the laboratory that is used. Partial body contact below the waist is okay from 300 to 999. So that's the yellow level that you'll see. You see the sign on the right-hand side. It's just plain white. When they have to put an advisory up for partial body contact, it's yellow, and when it's no body contact or advised, it's red. So these are advisories. If we put these out there and somebody wants to dive in, that's up to them, but we've provided that information. Okay. So this is where those levels come from. So this is, what's the number again, Dan?
It's Act 451, NREPA, National Resources Environmental Protection Act. That's where those numbers come from.
So right in there.
And it's referenced in the Public Health Code to reference this, basically. So.
Yep. So that's nice. So in our advisory, it quotes those, it states what those mean and all of that. So go ahead.
Yeah.
So here we are again. Level 1 is how we kind of rate it, kind of on that nice scale. Level 1's full body contact. Everything's normal. Go right ahead and do it. Level 2 is that 301 or 300 to 999, partial body contact is advised. Red tag is the no body contact is advised, so basically you should probably just stay out of it. And then level 4 would be those days that Dan was referring to when you have combined sewage overflow and it's dumping just mad amounts into the lake right next to the swimming beaches.
And we're not even sampling at that point. It's like there is a known sewage release, like it's level 4. Stay out of the water.
Yeah, so that's where it comes in. So this is when we get the results. It's always kind of a nail-biting thing in the middle of summer, especially on July 3rd or right close to July 4th. We get results from the laboratory, come right to us, and we compile them and put them into this press release. So it lists the beach, it lists the numbers that were, results that were given to us and what level they're at today.
Yeah.
So if you look on the right-hand side, they're all pretty normal, level 1, everything's normal, and then you have Beulah Beach here, which is level 3, no body contact advised. So Beulah Beach has had a history of strange results. For whatever reason, it's a community that has a lot of surface water. It's got a highway cutting off, flow the other way. So basically when it rains, it just all goes into the swimming beach and there's an outlet right there. So the great thing about this is, a little success story out of it, they were able to get grant funding to do stormwater retention and changes within that village because of these results, and they're fixing the problem. So it's been a huge success on that end. So, but that's how our press release looks. The Watershed Center puts together all of the contacts for us. They give us the emails and phone numbers of the municipalities that we would deal with, newspaper, radio, all the contacts for our press release. So it's really nice on that end of things, plus local health department officials. So that's what it would look like. It gives some, basically defines what the levels are. And then at the bottom, it kind of talks about these are what, we test for, and it's not a great idea to go swimming even if we don't have results if you have a major rain event. Because these results, as Dan has said, this is Grand Traverse, very similar. You can see how some are 1, some are 2, some are 3. I guarantee that this was right after a rain event, right after it. Yeah. So what will happen is when we have these, we post the advisory. We talk to the municipalities before we do the press release so that they're aware. They get out there and they post it. Then we put this out and we let them know we will be sampling the very next day. When I say we, the laboratory does it. So they get out first thing in the morning, right after bad results. So on Thursday, they go back out, resample, so we have it early Friday. So it's boom, boom, boom. And that's what we look at. And hopefully, it's a bright sunny day, and it kills those bacteria right away. So you can have thousands, and the very next day, it's beautiful, like 0s and 1s and 2s because of the sunshine.
Sunlight is a wonderful thing.
It is. It's great.
Yes.
Absolutely great.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in real quick. So when I was talking about before, like all the problems we had and all the complaints, this result format came out of that. Okay, and we switched from closing the beach if it's above 300 to having those options, which were based in the law. We're not, just picking it. It's based in the law of having the partial body contact. So if somebody, because we have lots of people, they're not just out there swimming. There's just as many people, or maybe even more, paddling, stand-up paddle boards or fishing or whatever, and that, gives them options. And the other thing that we changed is like, even if these were all 1s, we are sending out this to the media, even if it's all 1s, okay? So they're getting, and believe me, these are the examples that we pulled for this. We have way more weeks where it's all 1s than where we have issues. So we're hitting them with that press release, even if it's all good. So they have it. And sometimes they'll write an article like beach monitoring, no issues, this month or something like that, which is good, which is what we want. So
another nice benefit of the collaboration for all you directors out there is it's not just me, right? So if the press can't get a hold of me, if there's an elevated level, they can talk to Sarah at the Watershed Center to get a quote for their paper, or they can talk to Brent to get a quote for their paper, because they love that. So that collaboration is really nice, because if you can't be there, unlike Dan, who's got to be there, somebody else can kind of pick up that load if need be. So that's one of the other nice things about it.
Yes, yeah, that is definitely a pro there. So, and when we made this, I mean, you know, there was, as soon as we made this change in how we were reporting stuff, it was like, you know, the press was on our side, you know, the people even, like I've seen at the hotels, the local hotels, they have this posted on their wall inside the lobby. Because the other nice thing is, okay, well, I was gonna go to Clinch Park, but it's a 3, or I was gonna go to Bryant Park, or East Bay Park, and it was a 2, but hey, look, you know, the state park is a 1. Let's go there, or let's go, you know, to some of these other ones. So it gives people options. So I'm going to jump into Health Department Northwest, and so basically, and I'm, you know, last year I started there about this time last year, and I did not, you know, I wasn't thinking about beaches. I was thinking about starting a new job and figuring out what I needed to do. And then when beaches came about, and I really kind of learned about what we do, it's drastically different. We are at Health Department Northwest. We are anything above that 300 number. We're issuing an advisory, but only after the second sample that comes back. The first one, there's no advisory that comes out. It just gets resampled, and you know, if it is high again, then we put out the notification. It meets the law because you have to notify within 36 hours of getting a result, so it does meet the law, but that's something that I'm planning on changing. And I'm also planning on changing and going to this model that we've used in Grand Traverse and Benzie, Leelanua. So basically, you know, we have part of the reason for this, and you know, the reason why it's like that is because we have a ton of beaches. We have 4 counties, you know, and hundreds of miles of shoreline. It starts from essentially 12 miles from here, you know, up Grand Traverse Bay, and it goes to the Mackinac Bridge. I mean, that's a lot of shoreline to take care of, and a lot of inland beaches too, a lot of inland lakes. So we have 34 primary beaches that are sampled for approximately 11 weeks, and that includes, you know, 29 Great Lakes beaches and the rest are inland beaches. And then we also, for 2 times during the summer, we add 15 to that. Okay, and the reason, and for those of you that are like maybe planning different things with a beach program, that total number, 49, is the one that we get to use when we're saying how many beaches we're monitoring. You don't have to sample every single one every week. As long as you're sampling them during the season, they count, okay? So that's something to remember. We hire, you know, either 1 or 2 summer interns to grab samples. They grab the samples, and I mean, it's a busy day, right? You know, there is a lot of ground to cover, and I don't know if any of you have driven through my district. It's not easy. There are lots of barriers, lots of lakes, lots of hills. The roads are not straight, you know. We have a drawbridge, you know, which can be problematic in the summer, so. So it takes a little while, and there's some logistics involved. We report results right now. We utilize BeachGuard to report out the results, and then we link it to our website. And just really quick, to talk about websites. When I was in Grand Traverse County, every year they did the metrics for the county website. And you know what the one that got the most hits? The health department site for beaches, out of the entire county. So, I mean, people really care about, you know, water quality on beaches, and they're looking for that information. And like I said at the beginning, I mean, it's your opportunity, or in the write-up that was read, it is a really good opportunity for the health department to interact with the public and do it well, because they're looking for that information. So this is our own lab right here, and actually, this is what we call right now the old lab, because we put a 1,500 square foot addition, basically, not an addition, but we took over another, no, 1,800 square feet. So we went from about 500 square feet, just this room, to 2,300 square feet. And we're doing all kinds of different stuff, clinical specimens and wastewater and things like that. So, but this is Cheryl, our environmental lab manager, and she's the one that runs the water tests for beaches. So just to, give you an idea where we're talking about, it's this whole area right here with all the shoreline, some big lakes. It's really big.
Hey Dan.
Yeah.
Make sure you show them the most beautiful place in America. Right
Oh,
here.
right here. Yeah.
The pinky
Yep.
right there.
Right there.
Good,
Yep.
morning,
Yep.
Good Morning America said it. I
yeah.
didn't. So, in case you want a vacation, there's.
Right. Yeah, which basically increased the number of people that come there by like 100 times.
At least.
It used to
At
be
least.
our own little private playground, and then,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that happened.
Nix that then. Don't.
Yeah.
No.
So, yeah, so this is an old map. I didn't have time to, there's more stars that I would add to this, but these are all the beaches that are sampled, or some of them. There's more that should be included on this, but there's a lot. So like I said, we only use the full body contact standard, 300 right now. Advisories are posted after the second sample, reporting to Beach Guard, and then we link to the website. This is kind of what Beach Guard looks like if you haven't seen it before. And it's really actually, really quite useful. You can download data off of it. You can export right here if you need to, and there is, these are just a sample of some of the beaches in Emmett County that are on there. So, when we're talking about partnerships and considerations for beach monitoring, I mean, this is the ones that I've been involved with, where right now I'm taking the lead for the entire project, right? This one is the one that Grand Traverse and Benzie Leelanua does, where they partner with another entity to take the lead, okay? The Watershed Center. And I think, like I said, it took a lot of the burden off of the health department, because they're doing a lot of the paperwork and the heavy lifting with getting the grants and doing all that stuff. And they would just, Sarah Uren from the Watershed Center would send me an email and say, hey, I need a letter of support. Hey, I need, how much did you spend on this? Or how much did you do this? Just to help her with the stuff that she needs to send in to Shannon Briggs at the state. So, but it could be on any number of things. You could take the lead, and if you don't have a lab, you could contract with a lab. You could, collect the samples, or you could have the lab collect the sample. I mean, there's just any number of, opportunities there to do that. So, just talking about the monitoring costs for culture-based methods. We're roughly, and this costs for everything are going up, obviously, as we speak. So, just to give you an idea here, we just raised I changed this number. This was out of date. We raised our number to this at our lab, $24 per analysis. And then, this could be all over the board. If you're hiring interns, what to think about as far as that goes. We currently, last year we paid 16, and we might have to raise it. I don't know if we'll, So right now, we have some funding sources that are on the board. I was actually just talking right before this presentation about that. We have $200,000 from a Renew Michigan state funds for inland lake beaches, which this is due April 22nd. A lot of you may have gotten this, and if you haven't, reach out to Shannon Briggs at Eagle, and she'll get you the information. $500,000 for doing rapid testing. And a lot of us, some of us have been, that have labs, we've been participating in the wastewater surveillance project, and when we have a digital droplet PCR from that, okay? We actually have 2 of them. So, and I'm also thinking about the sites that we're doing this wastewater surveillance for, and a lot of them are schools. So what's going to happen in the summer, they're not going to be in session, so I'm going to have some room on this machine to maybe do some source tracking. So that's something to consider. And then, of course, we all have the Beach Act federal funds, which Shannon let me know. I talked to her before this meeting that, you know, she's anticipating that we're going to be getting those funds this year. So it's always kind of comes down to the wire. You know, we never know for sure, but and this is just a little bit more on costs. You know, the sample costs. How much, you know, let's say if you're doing, you're working with a lab or you're charging a fee if you have your own lab to do these type of samples for the digital PCR, 70 to 100. I've even, you know, thought about this myself. You know, it could even go up to 200. I mean, the supply costs for those instruments are just going crazy right now. So, and it's a $100,000 instrument, you know, so there's a lot of money wrapped up into that, but you do get the results quite a bit faster. But I will say something about that. I think with the digital droplet PCR is much more efficient than the qPCR because you don't have to do the calibration curves and all that kind of stuff. Because when we were looking at that, I don't know, it was started about 10 years ago, we were like, well, are we really gaining that much from a culture-based, inexpensive, you know, just taking a sample and running it through Coal Alert, doing the incubation? Because by the time you collected the sample, you ran your standard curve, you did the calibration, all that stuff, you wouldn't get your results until like 5 o'clock, right? And then what do? You know, you didn't have time to get them out to who needed to get them and get them out to the media. So you weren't really gaining that much. Yeah, you could do it first thing in the morning the next day, but with the culture-based sampling, we were getting results around 10 o'clock anyway, you know. So I think with the digital, I mean, it's getting better as we go, and the digital PCR is definitely an improvement. So where to sample? You know, obviously within the defined swimming area is the best place. You pick 3 sites, like Eric had mentioned, and right now, I mean, it used to be where you had to run 3 different samples and then to do the geomean to get the results, right, that you were going to report. Now, if you have a beach, this is important, you have a beach that you have historical data for, and I think everybody's probably doing this now, but if you want to add it, you can do the composite sampling where you're just taking the 3 sites, put it in one big bottle, and then you're running 1 sample versus 3. Huge cost savings. But just remember, if you want to do this at a new beach, you can't do that right away. Like, you need at least a season's worth, maybe 2, of data where you're taking the 3 samples, running the 3 samples, doing the geomean, all that kind of stuff. Because in order to get approved to do composite sampling from Eagle, they're going to look at that data and they're going to run it through a statistical analysis. I think it's a Pearson test. I can't remember exactly, but and determine whether or not that data allows you to do composite sampling. So just some of the field gear we have here. These guys are wearing waders. Our guys don't wear waders. They wear bathing suits, just so you know. But they're running. They're going out there grabbing the sample. They're hopping back in their car, you know. They're taking off. Probably not the best on a rainy, cooler day. You know, you don't want to hold the samples for much longer than 6 hours. You know, the lab typically needs about 2 hours to prep. You know, so all these things are considerations. And I think, you know, if you're going to start your new, you really got to think about how long it's going to take for, you know, realistically for the logistics to happen. And like, you know, what time you want someone to start sampling, and basically as soon as it's daylight. And the notification signs are important. And, you know, at the beaches, you know, you're doing also, as part of a monitoring project, you're doing sanitary surveys. So you're looking at, like, what's going on at that beach. Are there, like, things that are going on that are obviously contributing to a problem? You know, you have things like a old sewer line or storm drain or whatever going over a creek. You know, failing septic systems in the area, just nasty looking water. We see these all the time. These are storm drains, And I guarantee you with this right here, it got washed out by the waves, or sometimes they will just pop their top during rain events and it'll just come out all over the beach. So I'm going to hand this back to Eric.
Yeah, one of the things that if you live on the lake lately, last couple of years, you'll know that the water levels have been up. So one of the things not shown there is we've had in the last couple of years marinas with swimming beaches right next to them, and the water, because it's so high, into the parking lots and everything that's associated with that. So the last couple of years has been a real issue with that aspect of things. So that's just one of those things you find. So remediation. So this gives us an opportunity when we put these press releases out and we get the press calling, is to get information out to the public and the local officials that don't want to have to close the beach, because nobody wants to do that. So it's a great opportunity to work again with our watershed center to put out information on how to prevent, to the best of your ability, those rain event contamination issues. And it would be, you know, prepping and planting the right type of vegetations, rain gardens, that sort of thing, and we can go over a bunch of those. So to do high and dry beach sand. So geese and all that, they don't like to be out in there. They want to be in the grass where there's food and it's close to water, and then you flat beach sand, little rise in water and it comes way in. Wind events, rain events, that sort of thing. So if you can get more elevation in your sand, you're better off. Stormwater retention at the beach, as we mentioned, that is a huge thing. Rain events will always spike things. Again, stormwater retention in parking areas. You have people walking their dog, you have geese, you've got all sorts of animals, and it can sit there. If you think about your summer, it can sit there for weeks and just waiting for a rain event, and then it all flushes, like flushing the toilet, down these hard surfaces into the storm water and out into your beach swimming areas. So again, you can construct different things like Beulah has been doing, stormwater retention and changes, curbs and gardens and ways for water to go there and not into a body of water where there may be a swimming beach. Porous pavement's another way. Putting in drainage underneath parking lots so that it has filtration to get through before it hits those bodies of water. Geese. I don't know if you have geese by the beaches where you're at, or seagulls and that sort of thing, but they are a big, big problem, and more than likely one of the #1 reasons why E. coli spikes during a rain event. So anything that can be done by putting in different types of vegetation they don't like to be in, versus having a nice green food source right next to the bathing beach, right by the water. If you can make those changes, it makes a big difference. Again, food source right next to water, geese love it. And you all know the landmines that you have to walk through to get to the nice bathing beach, right? So those things that townships, as they go through this, and we've been doing it about 20 years now, they understand they need to make changes, and they can try to find funding like Beulah to make those changes so that we don't have to close it in the summer.
Well, and I will say too that the Watershed Center has done a number of things. They did a big project in Sutton's Bay with stormwater, and they were actually in the city of Traverse City, they put in filters at the end of the pipe to help with stormwater and reducing E. coli and things like that. Now, one thing you have to be mindful of that, and all the data that you collect during the beach monitoring season goes to support these things. And they've gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants to deal with these. But one thing I can tell you is that you have to make sure, if you're going after those type of things, or if you're working with a watershed center, is just to warn them that you got to have your municipality on board, because someone's got to maintain that, right? Someone's got to go in there and suck out all the sand and clean it out and all that stuff. So sometimes, you don't know what you're getting into.
I think we covered that. Landscaping again, planting.
Green belt.
So, just changes. Green belts, so you're not going right up to the edge of the water again. Big problem, and I'm sure Dan can, address it a little bit more, was people feeding ducks. In the summer, you're on vacation, you see all these little ducks and little ducklings, and you want to feed them your bread. Well, you're by the beach. They're going to do their business by the beach. So you can see the Watershed Center puts out these publications. So again, that's another burden on the health department. We don't have to do, they're doing it. And they put out these publications. And in the summer, if you go by, there's a farmer's market over here, you'll see these signs all along the Boardman, all along the beach. And it's just a great reminder to not feed the ducks. So they also put these out. How can I do other things? Wildlife, keep them away. Don't feed them. Keep your pets off the beach. Restrooms, there's no peeing or ooh, keep it that way sort of thing. Get the kids to the restrooms, use it frequently. All these different things they put out. And once you close the beach, people want to see these things. They want to know what's going on, right? So this has been great by the Watershed, and of course that makes a mark when don't get trashed at the beach. Okay?
This is what the beach looks like after Cherry Festival, by the way.
Yeah,
So.
usually. Yeah.
5 minutes, okay.
So it's a great educational opportunity.
So here's some listservs that, if you want more information on, beaches and things the things that are going on and just what's going on in the community. This has a Michigan focus, this is a Great Lakes focus, and this is an EPA focus, but all these are great. Then this is really geared towards health departments and laboratories, and they put out a ton of information. MSU is highly active, especially in source tracking, and they put out a lot of information. And I mean, they meet. There's a weekly 1-hour call where I don't get on that meeting all the time, and lots of times when I get on there, it's like the information is like whoa, way over my head because they're talking about a lot of laboratory stuff. But that's a great resource. And then Shannon Briggs made me put this slide in here, okay? So there's a beach conference in the fall 2022 in Duluth. Never been to Duluth, might actually take advantage of this one. So that's put that on your radar. And she told me to let everybody know that, with the regular funding that comes up in October, because this conference usually is towards the end of October. So October 1, we get the next funding round for the next year, and if you can, look at that funding and what you're getting, and you can use that funding to pay for going to this conference, okay, or partial or whatever. You don't want to, if you get, 3,000 for beaches, you don't want to spend $2,000 at the conference, but just got to be conscious of that. So that's it. We're wrapped up. Do we have any questions?